Hello and welcome. In this video, we will introduce you to our project Färbisch and show you how to use an Excel template to register samples for the IGSN, the International Generic Sample Number. While Färbisch means fair workflows to establish IGSN for samples in the Helmholtz Association, we aim to facilitate IGSN registration for a broad range of physical samples in earth and environmental sciences from various institutions. We will start this video with a very short introduction to the IGSN and the context of our project. The second part of the video will then be a tutorial on how to use the template for sample registration. So let's start with the introduction. The Färbisch project is established in the context of the Helmholtz Metadata Collaboration, which is a platform to coordinate metadata across all research fields within the Helmholtz Association. It provides funding for practical challenges in the field of metadata generation and data enrichment and aims to make all research data fair. FAIR is the acronym for Findable, Accessible, Interoperable, and Reusable. The motivation of the Färbisch project is to provide information on physical samples in the Geo-Bio domain following FAIR principles. The samples are unique, non-reproducible records and key sources of research data. Preserving this information in a dedicated space helps to make samples usable for a long time with minimized loss of information. The IGSN is such a space, as it provides a globally unique and persistent identifier for sample description, allowing us to cite, track, and locate samples. It links the samples to data and publications, and therefore closes one of the last gaps in the full provenance of research results. Further, the IGSN is designed to build a global sample catalog. In our project, we created a template which serves for batch registration for various Geo-Bio sample types. Many samples are hierarchical, meaning that, for example, a borehole is the parent. In this borehole are several cores taken as children. The cores have children which are core sections, and core sections have individual samples as children. With our template, we aim to facilitate user-friendly IGSN registration, register samples at various hierarchy levels, and of course, various kinds of samples. And with this, I want to close the introduction and switch to the sample registration template. At the moment, the template is provided as Excel or LibreOffice Calc download. You can find the download link in the video description. The template is divided into various worksheets. Let's first focus on the sheets How To and Guide. In the How To, we find instructions on template usage, a description of object categories that can be described with this template, and an explanation of the Guide worksheet. The variables in the Guide belong to 6 object categories, describing the sample itself, the sampling action, the locality the sample was taken in, persons and institutions involved, information on the archive the sample is stored in, and last but not least, information on references related to the sample. Further down, we summarize information on the various columns of the guide sheet. The guide helps us to build our own sample description template, and in the guide, you can select variables you need to describe your samples at various hierarchies. At the moment, only the mandatory variables are selected. The headers will bring you to the respective input template, for example, to the parent. And here we see the selected variables as column headers. If we are interested in a definition, we can click on definition below the variable header and come back to the respective variable definition in the guide. Let's say we want to add the sample size to a parent sample. We should also provide information on the sample size unit so that our data readers know if the value or values are given in meters, hectoliters, milligram, or whatever measuring unit your sample has. Going back now to the parent template, we see that these variables are added. But let me shortly show you what happens if you enter metadata and later change your variables. So for example, we want to add another name to our samples and then go back to the parent. You see that data are shifted from the new variable on. The same happens if we unselect variables. This is why we recommend to either select all necessary variables before entering your data to avoid the displacement, or to carefully recheck your data after you add or delete a variable. Now let's have a deeper look at the guide. The first set of variables is used to describe a sample, the next for the sampling location, and so on. We will not go through all 89 variables, but the definition for each term is given here. The next column gives information on the content to enter, so whether it is free text, a number, or for example follows a controlled vocabulary. Additional information might be given here, and on the right side of the table we give examples of the input to a variable. I just talked about controlled vocabularies, so let's have a closer look at those. Some variables only allow restricted variable input, which means that we have to choose a keyword from the vocabulary list as input for a variable in our sample description template. The template itself will, however, not warn you if you enter other values, so make sure to only use the terms given here. For example, if we click on the link to the controlled vocabulary list for the variable sample type, we will be forwarded to the input list of the variable. This list includes keywords and their definitions to be used to describe the types of our samples. So choose a keyword which best describes your sample type and enter it to your sample description in the template. If you can't find the right keyword to describe your sample type, please don't hesitate to contact us. The same, of course, appears to all other vocabulary lists. With the links in the top left corner, you get back to the guide or to a template you want to enter your term in. So for now, let's get back to the guide. There are some variables where we use these controlled vocabulary lists. For sample description, these are the sample type, the material, the rock material classification, mineral classification, or biological material classification. If your sample type is a taxonomic species, please use the list of ITIS. The next category for sample description is the sampling, and here you can add information on time, date, sampling depth, methods, and also on campaigns or platforms the sample was taken at. Maybe you realize that some cells are gray here. This is because of the hierarchy of the samples. If we come back to the example of a hole with cores and core sections, the hole might have been drilled during a special campaign. A core might have been extracted during a next campaign, but the core section is not taken at a further campaign. So the gray cells are those that you likely do not need to describe a sample at the respective hierarchy, as the values are inherited from the upper level. However, if you need, it is still possible to select these variables. The next category for sample description is the location, where information on coordinates, landform, biome, and so on can be given. The information on persons and institutions includes persons conducting the sampling, their affiliations, and information on the funding. Then we have information on the archive and the sample access. And last but not least, information on related references like papers, datasets, or other samples that are not connected via hierarchies. So let's conclude. To build our own template for IGSN sample registration, we first read the how-to, then go to the guide and select the variables we need for sample description and fill then our template with metadata. For specific variables, we can make use of controlled vocabularies to make our metadata human and machine readable, or in short, fair. So here's an example. We have a filled template with parent data. These samples have children. The children have children themselves, and we even have a next level of children. So 4 hierarchy levels are filled with data. Of course, if you enter metadata for a child, you have to provide the name of its parent. That means the related sample 1 hierarchy level above, and give a definition, whether the parent is identified by its IGSN or, if no IGSN is registered yet, by its sample name. Finally, we save the file, give it an expressive name, and then we send it per email to GFZ Data Services, where our data curators will take care of it. Hopefully, the tutorial helps you to prepare your sample metadata for IGSN registration. So this is a first version, and we need your input to further adapt the template to your needs and for describing various kinds of samples. So we would be very happy if you test the template with us and answer a questionnaire, which can also be found in the description below. We want to learn about your experience using the template, if you could understand it, use it easily, and if you found everything you need to describe your samples. For now, I thank you for watching this video, and I'm looking forward to your feedback.